When was the last time you said yes because you were too afraid to say no? No is a complete sentence. But how many times have we added 17 extra sentences just to make it feel softer? Well, today I'm giving you permission to stop over-explaining, stop apologizing, and start communicating with clarity, kindness, and confidence. So let me ask you again. When was the last time you said yes because you were too afraid to say no? Take that memory, hold it, because today's episode is your chance to rewrite that story. Welcome to the Communication Architect, the podcast that teaches you how to build trust, speak truth, and protect your purpose through powerful communication. I'm your host, Tanera Lindvall, coach, speaker, author, and your boundaries bestie. And today's episode is a game changer. We're talking about why no doesn't need a speech and how you use your voice without guilt or confusion. If you've ever felt the need to soften your no with explanations or spiritual excuses, you know what I'm talking about, those God cards. Well, today's your freedom from that. No longer are we going to use the God card. We are going to learn how to own our yes and communicate our no. Hey everyone, today's episode is a game changer. We're talking about why no doesn't need a speech and how to use your voice without guilt or confusion. So if you've ever felt the need to soften your no with explanations or spiritual excuses, the God told me card, well, today's your freedom from that. No longer are we going to use the God card. We are going to learn how to own our yes and communicate our no. So let me tell you a story. There was a time I said no, but I didn't know when to stop talking. I had a friend who invited me to a conference, and it was out of state. And she was so excited. She wanted us to go together. She had planned a road trip, and honestly, guys, it really sounded great. But I already knew in my heart that the answer needed to be no. I had just come through a really heavy season, and honestly, guys, I needed rest, and I knew God was speaking to me about creating white space on my calendar. But instead of just saying no, or saying something like, I'm going to say no to this one, but thank you for thinking of me. I hope you have fun. I panicked, and I started piling on all these justifications. I just have a lot going on right now. I really wish I could. Oh, I feel so bad. Well, maybe next time. I just feel like God is telling me I really need to rest, but I know this is such a great opportunity. Or I'm praying about it, but I don't know yet. Y'all, she was so confused, and honestly, I was exhausted. I realized I didn't say no. You know what I said? I said maybe, probably not. I'm sorry, I feel guilty. Invite me next time. All in one breath. And that moment taught me something pretty powerful. When we over-explain, we often undermine the very boundary we're trying to build. I was afraid that no meant a disconnection in our relationship. But really, all she wanted was clarity, and I didn't give it to her. I gave her confusion wrapped up in my own insecurity. So have you ever done that? Added layers of words because you were afraid your no would hurt someone? How did it feel afterward? Did you feel light or did you feel heavy? When we over-explain, we actually invite confusion instead of clarity. So let's go back to Matthew chapter 5, verse 37 again, because this verse really is an anchor for healthy boundaries. And it says, let your yes be yes and your no be no. Anything more than this comes from the evil one. Jesus didn't just teach this, he modeled it. In Luke chapter 5, verse 15 through 16, there were huge crowds that came to Jesus to be healed. They were desperate. It was ministry, right? But what did Jesus do? It says, Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed. He didn't say, hey, I know you're all hurting. I feel so terrible. I wish I could be all things to you. You know what? Maybe I'll come back after lunch. No, he simply left. He withdrew. He said no to crowds. But why? He said it to protect his yes to the Father. And guys, that's not rude. That's righteous alignment with your purpose. Notice Jesus didn't justify his no. He didn't write a sermon about it and why he needed to rest. He just simply withdrew. So I want to encourage you. Jesus modeled healthy boundaries. And following his example is not selfish. It's actually stewardship. And if Jesus, the Messiah, could set boundaries without apologizing, well, then so can you. And what's one area in your life where you know God has already given you a boundary, but you're afraid to enforce it? So I want to share with you 3 coaching points to stop doing. All right, so we're going to talk about the 3 stops. Number 1, stop apologizing for your no. So there was a time I was invited to help with a bake sale. We were going to sell baked goods and raise money for a missions trip. And I remember when they asked me, because honestly, I really enjoy baking. And so I thought it could be fun, but my calendar was already packed. There were so many things I'd already committed to that weekend. And so the time it would take to be able to make some baked goods and then to go and actually support and help run the bake sale, I knew I didn't really have the capacity for. But instead of simply saying no, I went on a long apology tour. I'm so sorry, I really wish I could help. I feel terrible, maybe next time. And by the end of it, I honestly felt drained. And I'll be truthful, the other person probably was wondering why I was being so dramatic about a simple bake sale. Guys, why do we feel like when we say no, it automatically equals we should feel guilty? Instead, we should start practicing to replace I'm sorry with gratitude. And instead, we could say, thank you for asking, but I won't be able to help this time. Guys, pause and let's say this together. Thank you for asking, but I won't be able to help this time. Doesn't that feel better? Don't you feel lighter? All right, number 2, stop spiritualizing every no. Guys, this one grates on me. When we use the God card and blame God because we don't want to do something, instead of just simply owning our no. So I once was coaching this woman who kept saying, God told me no, or God told me yes. And every time she declined something, even a coffee date with friends, eventually people even stopped asking her out or asking her to join with them because they always felt this heavy, untouchable, well, she's got to pray about it and God will probably tell her no and then she won't come. And at a certain point, you just quit asking because there's nothing you can say after someone has said, well, but God said. Right? Once you use the God said card, you've removed opportunity for people to speak into your life. And you could have just simply said, I'm tired. I don't have the capacity. Thank you for asking. I'm unable to join, but you guys have fun. So when we over spiritualize, are we really protecting God's reputation or just our own comfort? So here's a tip. Only use the I'm praying about it if you actually are. Otherwise, just simply say no. So think of one situation right now where you've been tempted to use the God card, and what would it sound like if you just were clear, kind, and said no? All right, point number 3. Stop over-explaining your schedule. So I once found myself giving a coworker a 5-minute play-by-play of my entire week when she simply asked if I would be available for lunch. I was listing all the appointments and the Zoom calls, the work errands, the things I had committed to do for my boss, until she interrupted me and said, hey, I just needed a yes or no. That's when I realized that my need to justify my no was more about me than it was about her. So, have you ever done that? Over-explained your schedule because you felt the need to justify your no instead of just simply saying, thank you for asking, no, I'm unable to join you, or no, I'm unable to attend. Your time is valuable, but do you feel you have to justify it to others? So instead, use this phrase, that won't work for me this time, but thank you. It's short, it's kind, and it's a complete sentence. So say it out loud with me. That won't work for me this time, but thank you. It's short, it's kind, and it's complete. So let me give you a script. Here's what a healthy and holy no sounds like. Thank you so much for thinking of me. That's not something I can say yes to right now, but I hope it's a blessing to you. It's clear, it's kind, and it's complete. You don't owe anyone your peace in exchange for their approval. You don't need to over-explain your no for it to be received in love. You just need to believe that your obedience to the Lord is more important than anyone else's opinion of you. You don't owe people your schedule, your reasons, or your guilt. You owe them honesty, kindness, and clarity. So, what would shift in your relationships if you started saying no like this? So, here's your weekly challenge. Write down one situation you need to say no to. Draft your response in a clear, kind, one-sentence statement. And then say it out loud. Speak it, practice it, then actually communicate it. People can't read your mind. Then check in with yourself. Did saying no bring more peace than over-explaining would have? So friends, saying no isn't just about communication. It's about protecting your yes to God, your yes to His purpose and His calling. It's about choosing alignment to His purpose over the need to be accepted and meet everyone else's expectations. In other words, allow His purpose to be what determines your decisions, not the fear of man. If this episode blessed you or helped you, send it to your group chat, share it on your Instagram, Facebook, tell people, share it with a friend, and remind yourself that your no is holy and you're learning how to say it. So give yourself grace as you learn. Guys, I just want to pray over you today. Father, thank you so much for giving us permission to speak truth in love. Thank you for the gift of clarity and for boundaries that honor your peace. For the person listening who has over-explained, over-apologized, or over-carried the burdens of others, remind them today that they are allowed to be clear and kind when they communicate their no without the need to over-explain. Let their voice be strong and let their no be anointed to protect their yes and their purpose in you. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, friends, that's it for today. If you're loving these episodes, leave a comment or tell me what you would like to hear on these podcasts. Don't miss next week when we talk about when they don't like your no, boundaries, backlash, and becoming spirit-led instead of people-led. Trust me, you don't want to miss it.